righty. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the FSU College of Education's Teacher Education Preview Day. My name is Jenny Kroger, and I'm the Communications Director here in the College of Ed. We're super excited to have you with us tonight to learn more about our teacher education programs here at FSU. And during today's session, you're going to hear from the 2020 and 2021 Florida Teachers of the Year, who will share their stories. And you'll also hear from Miss Mia Hines. She's one of our academic advisors, and she'll be providing information about our programs, admission requirements, and scholarships, and all that fun stuff. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Dre Graham, the 2020 Florida Teacher of the Year.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks so much for the introduction, Jenny. As she mentioned, I am Dr. Dre Graham. I like to say I'm the real Dr. Dre because I have the degree. The other guys, some of y'all for the first time saw him at the Super Bowl, but for those of us who lived during his reign, it was very nostalgic. So I hear that there's like this gap of like people who were born before like my generation were like, oh, that was terrible. And then people who were like born now are like, oh, that was terrible. But then like those of us who lived it were like, man, that was bomb. Although I will say that I was slightly disappointed in just like their amount of endurance. Like they kind of were showing their age a little bit. And I'm like, I can still get down. That doesn't happen to me. But anyway, totals aside, 2020 Florida Teacher of the Year. I am a former high school band and orchestra director. I taught in the Hillsborough County area. So if anybody on here is from the Tampa area, represent. I think it's really important, just my story and how I ended up in education. I think it's important to understand that it was not something that I initially had intended to do. I was planning to be an anesthesiologist. And I realized during my collegiate career that things I was doing outside of my microbiology classes and things like that, and also because I was a double major in music education. And so I was realizing that things outside of my regular coursework were revolving around education. So then started working with some students and things. And ultimately, just to make a long story, a potentially long story, somewhat more condensed and consolidated, I realized that my passion and my purpose and my responsibility and later on my ministry is to teach and to have that connectivity with students and to see them grow from the process and know that I had something to do with it is just such an incredible feeling. And I echo, and I'm sure Krista will echo these same very similar sentiments. And anyone who's involved in education has had an opportunity to see a student have those epiphanies or that aha moment. And many of you who are considering going into education right now, who are here, you've made the first step. You have possibly experienced that or been on the receiving end of that and understand how integral and how significant education plays in our community, in our society, even now more than ever. And so I encourage you to continue to get information, continue to seek out, continue to counsel and speak with other teachers to get their perspective and their views and to really understand what you're getting into. Because I will say, and I know there's others who may get into this, and some people kind of veer away whenever we start talking about this, but education, being a teacher is not easy. And I think for me, it's important that you understand that, but you also understand that it is worth it. And there is no other profession out there like it. And I would not change being a teacher for anything. The teachers are the gateway. They're the ones who are there. They're the protectors of our students. They are those who empower our students to go on and do incredible things. And without education, without teachers, no other profession would exist. And that's just, it's something that I feel like we as a society have forgotten, but teachers are so important. And you have made that first step on really moving forward to not only doing or finding a career that will be fulfilling for you, but you will also understand your role as a world changer. And we do just that. Every student who has the opportunity to come in contact with you, every student who we have the opportunity to come in contact with is a future world changer. And it's up to us to provide them with the tools to go out there and change the world for the better. Because as a teacher, you have that power. It is a powerful position. One more point, and I'll turn over to Chris. I don't want to take away from the time, and I could go on and on about how incredible teaching is, but whenever I get the opportunity to speak to legislative members in my role now, and they have something negative to say about education, my very first question to them is, what teacher hurt you? because that teacher, there is a specific teacher, because we can all right now, if we close our eyes, and even if we did close our eyes, because most of your cameras aren't on anyway, so we don't know what you look like. But if you sit there and I were to say, think about the teacher who made the greatest impact in your life. You can think of that person immediately, and you know what characteristic they had and what different things that they did that made you love learning. And they're the reasons you're here. I get to work with my inspirational teacher all the time. She's also a band and orchestra director in Hillsborough County. So we still have that connection. But I can also tell you that if I were to ask you, who's the worst teacher you ever had? You remember that person too. And the problem is we have so many people whose experiences were more surrounded by teachers who they didn't like versus the teachers who had that positive impact on their life. So I encourage you, as you continue to pursue the most noble profession known to man, the most powerful and influential profession known to man, that you continue to remember that teacher who made that difference in your mind and in your life, and continue to aspire to not only be them, but surpass them, be that version of yourself for other students as you help them to pursue the best version of themselves. So I'm really excited that I got a chance to speak with you guys today, and really looking forward to connecting with you in Tallahassee in the College of Education.
Thank you, Dre. Super inspirational as always. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce the 2021 Florida Teacher of the Year, Miss Krista Stanley.
Thanks, Jenny. First, every time I hear Dre speak, I get inspired again. So that was just as much for me as everyone else sitting here. So my name is Krista Stanley, and I am the 2021 Florida Teacher of the Year. I am just beginning my sixth, or I guess in the middle of my 6th year as an educator. So I was selected as the Florida Teacher of the Year after only 4 years of teaching 6th grade math. So that's something I had to own after being selected after 4 years. And I'll just go back to the beginning because it wasn't that long ago. So in 2016, I graduated from FSU with a degree in business management. And I did not think I wanted to be a teacher when I started college. So when I was a kid, my parents they were teachers, and everyone always told me I would be a teacher. And I just rebelled, like most kids do, and did not want to be a teacher. And so, of course, my last semester really at FSU, it kind of hit me that I wanted to be a teacher. And I think I always would have been a teacher, even though I didn't realize it until then. So when I started my career right after that, it quickly came to me that I knew I was where I was supposed to be. And I knew that I would make an impact on my students and on my community. So I made the best decision back in 2016 when I decided that I wanted to join this profession and be an educator. So after my sabbatical, which was the year I was selected as the 2021 Florida Teacher of the Year, I returned back to my community, and I'm now back at my school as an instructional coach. So now I get the best job, and I get to support students and teachers in my role this year. And I'll just share a few of my favorite things about being a teacher. One of those being what kind of Dre touched on, but specifically for me, I get to learn every single day something new about my students, about my community, and about my practice as a teacher. So we have those teachers who are great teachers that we remember, and then we have those teachers who we might have not had the best experience with. Right? We know that. But as a teacher, I know that I've been probably both of those teachers to some students in my career. And I get to go to school every day, accept that, and grow from that. So I get to continue to improve my practice every single day. And that's something that I love sharing with new teachers or aspiring teachers, especially because we all can improve every day. And I hope that in 10 years from now, I can say the same thing about my practice today, that I've improved and continue to do so. We also have those aha moments where our students, they just get it. And that might be something where we help our students grow in confidence or in ability. So in math ability, whenever I would work with my students and I would see them just get it or see them improve those skills and then build that confidence in their mathematical ability, that's just the best part about being a teacher. It's also amazing to go out into your community and to run into students you had in the past and to be able to see where they are today and to know that you had just a small piece in that and in their journey. So education is like no other profession, and being a teacher is like no other profession. You get to create these lifelong impacts that are going to continue to change your community and change the lives of your students. So I would encourage you to definitely join this profession, be an educator. You can make such an impact on those around you and change the lives of students every single day. So thank you for having this, getting this opportunity. I love speaking to you, and just reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd love to answer.
Thank you so much, Krista. At this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Mia Hines. She's one of our academic advisors for students in our teacher education programs.
Hello, everyone. I am going to share my screen. I have a little presentation for you all, and we will get started in a few seconds. So I'm Mia Hines, everyone. I am the academic advisor for students once they are actually enrolled into one of our teacher prep programs, our BSMS, and I'll talk about what that means. But I'm also a passionate educator. I am a former high school counselor and have been working in teacher prep programs, academic advising for the past 8 years. So I'm very passionate about education as well, the same sentiments that Dre and Krista shared. So I'm going to talk to you about all of our programs that we offer. Feel free to ask questions as I go along. You can put them in the chat or you can ask them out loud. And we are going to be recording this, right? Are we recording, Jenny?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. So our bachelor's master's program. So in the College of Education, we have a few different teacher preparation programs. We have a program that is a bachelor's and a master's, which we consider our 5-year teacher prep program, where you earn a bachelor's degree in 4 years if you come to Florida State, and then you will do 1 more year of additional coursework and you earn a master's degree in that area. So these are that we have about 5 programs where you can receive a bachelor's and a master's in 5 years. So first, elementary education. You all are pretty familiar with what elementary education is. You would work with students in grades K through 6. In our elementary ed bachelor's master's program, students that graduate also get endorsements in ESOL and reading, because we all know that there are a lot of students in schools where English is not their first language, and so that will be helpful, and also to help students that are possibly struggling in reading. We also have English education. Students that will graduate from this program will be certified to work in grades 6 through 12. So that is actually either working in a middle school or a high school. And our students are also receiving an ESOL and a reading endorsement in the English education program as well. Social science education is generally what you know as a history teacher. And so our social science program students are certified to work in grades 6 through 12, and that is also middle and high school. Then we have special education teaching, and that is if you are interested in working with students that have disabilities and becoming a special education teacher. We have a program in which you can get certified to work with students K through 12. So you can work in elementary, middle, or high schools. Our students that leave this program also receive an autism an autism endorsement, And so that is if you are interested in working with students that have autism, you're prepared for that. You also receive an ESOL and a reading endorsement. The last program where you can get a bachelor's and a master's degree is visual disabilities education. And this program is working with students that are visually impaired. So it is still in the special education realm, but it's very specific for working with students that are visually impaired. And so those students will graduate from the program being certified in grades K through 12 as well. They can work in elementary, middle, or high school. Notice that there are a few asterisks. So there's an asterisk next to English education, special education, and visual disabilities. And that just means that those areas are critical shortage areas in the state of Florida. What does that mean? That means that we don't have enough people going into those areas to become teachers. So we're always looking for more students to go into those areas. Other teacher preparation programs that we have at FSU, we have an art education program, and you do receive a bachelor's and a master's degree in that program. That program is underneath of the College of Fine Arts. And if you are interested in art, you would go and become certified, and you can work in grades K through 12. And that's also obviously elementary, middle, and high school. Then we have an FSU-Teach program, and this program focuses on STEM areas of teaching, so math and science. If you are interested in becoming a math teacher, you will graduate from the program with a bachelor's degree, but you will have two bachelor's degree, because you get a bachelor's degree in the College of Arts and Sciences, which is pretty much you get a bachelor's degree in math. And then you'll also get a bachelor's degree in math education. So if you are interested in that, students will graduate with a certification for grades 6 through 12. And that means you can work in middle school or high school. Then we also have a FSU-Teach science program. It's the same thing. You will get a bachelor's degree in science, the area you choose. And then you will also get a bachelor's degree in the College of Education. So we have 4 different areas where students can select for science. We have biology, you can become a chemistry teacher, earth, space science, or physics. And students that leave that program are set up to become certified grades 6 through 12 as well. So that's working with students in middle school or high school. And the last teacher preparation program that we have at Florida State is music education. And that program, you do only earn a bachelor's degree, and you are, that program is through the College of Music. But if you are interested, you will become certified in grades K through 12. So you can become an elementary, middle, or high school music teacher. And keep in mind that there are a few critical shortage areas on this slide as well. So FSU-Teach math and science. So math and science are critical shortage areas. We're always looking for more students to go into math and science. So if you are thinking about that, maybe think about one of those areas. So we also have an education minor. So a minor is just kind of something that is underneath of your major. So you'll have, when you come to Florida State, you'll declare a major. And then you also have the opportunity to declare a minor if you want to. It's not a necessity, but something that sometimes students do. And that is a smaller credit load. It's only 12 credit hours. And there's a few courses that you would need to take, and they're on the screen. But what I want to point out about the minor is it does not lead to a professional educator certificate. So if you are interested in teaching, you do need to choose one of our teacher preparation programs. However, sometimes students that are interested in psychology, but they also are possibly interested in education, they'll major maybe in psychology, but choose education minor, which allows you to take at least 12 credits of education courses. But once again, it doesn't lead to any certification. So I'm going to share with you our program at a glance for our bachelor's, master's programs. So there are, once you come to Florida State, you'll do 5 years if you go to our bachelor's master's. The first 2 years are your freshman and your sophomore year. So during the freshman and sophomore years, you are taking your general education courses that are required for you. So you're taking your Englishes, your maths, your science that the university says that you have to take that are part of your general ed requirements. After you apply to our program and you start our program, generally most students start as a junior. And so when you start as a junior, then you will be in our program for 3 years. So you would have a junior year, a senior year, you graduate and get a bachelor's degree in whatever subject area that you are enrolled in. and then you come back for one additional year and you get a master's degree in that program. So during those years, I just want to give you a kind of an overview of what are some of the things that you'll be doing while you're in our program. So during the junior year, once you first start our program, you will have education coursework that is within your program or subject area. And then you will also take coursework in your subject area. So this is really for students that choose one of the secondary areas like English, social science, or math or science. There are a series of courses that you actually have to take in that content area, and you would be taking those courses. And then also you would be taking reading courses and TSL courses, which are courses in which you will learn how to work with ESL or ELL learners. Some districts call them different things. So those are some of the courses that you would take. And then the last thing that you are going to experience during your junior year is early field experiences, which is you going into the schools. We pair you with a teacher. You might be observing, maybe you're working with small groups, but you are getting some field experiences as soon as you start our program. Then we move you into the senior year, and we give you a different set of courses. And some of those courses are methods courses where you're not just learning about education, but now you're really getting into how do I teach this subject area to students so that they will be able to learn the material, right? So that's what you're doing during your senior year. If you are in a secondary program, you are also taking coursework in your subject area. You are continuing with reading and TSL courses. During the senior year, we do have our students that start taking graduate coursework. You will start taking some graduate coursework, and that's the way that you're able to kind of finish the master's program in 1 year. And then also early field experiences. We place you into the schools every single semester that you're in the program, and you're getting experience about, okay, how do I connect what I'm learning to what it really means to be a teacher? And so we put you out in the field so that you can practice some of those skills, okay? Then you graduate at the end of your senior year, you get a bachelor's degree, you have a graduation, we're excited, and then you come back for one additional year and you receive a master's degree. So in the master's program, you are a graduate student. You take all graduate coursework. You are focusing more on research methods. So you're kind of grounding yourself in the research literature of teacher education and what it means to be a teacher and what methods and strategies are out there. We also have students take a culture responsive course, which is really just learning about all different types of cultures and diversity, and how do I work with students from various backgrounds. And then the really exciting part about our master's program is that you are in the field even more. So we do a practicum, and then that very last semester, you're student teaching. And you are in the field 5 days a week. You're paired up with a teacher. You're in the schools, and you will eventually take over that classroom and teach it on your own with the guidance of a teacher that we pair you up with. So that's kind of our bachelor's master's program in a nutshell. I think there was a question, and do you have to go to the master's program? So that's a good question. So if you are going to do any of it, I'm gonna go back a couple slides. So if you're going to do any of these programs, the elementary English, social science, special education, or visual disabilities, it has the whole entire program has a bachelor's and a master's. So if you want to get certified in the state of Florida to be a teacher and you're interested in one of these, you do have to complete the master's portion of the program. If you are interested in one of our other programs where it does not have a master's tied to it, then no, you do not have to do a master's degree. But for certification purposes, the way that our program is written for the state for these other areas is it is a bachelor's and a master's. Okay. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the benefit of going into a master's program in a little bit. Okay. So field experience placements, I talked about those. So those are really just you going into the field and being paired with a teacher. We call that a cooperating teacher. And you're paired with a teacher and you will spend so many days or hours with that teacher, really observing, possibly doing some small group work. You might teach a lesson here or two, depending on where you are in your program. But the amount of hours that you spend in the field depends on the program that you are enrolled in. Each program has a different set of hours that students have to adhere to. We typically place students in elementary, middle, and high schools. And for your early field experiences, we place you mostly in Leon County, which is where Florida State University is housed in Leon County in Tallahassee, or Wakulla or Jefferson, which are surrounding counties. Probably the farthest is probably about maybe 25, 30 minutes away. Those are for our early field experiences. For our internship, which is also referred to as student teaching, that semester, you can choose to either stay in Tallahassee or one of these surrounding counties, or you can go somewhere else in the state. So a lot of times, students will tend to go back home, possibly save some money, live with family or parents, and they will do their student teaching experience possibly in either a district that you came from or you graduated from, or a surrounding county. And we do have a list of districts and counties that we work with. It is a very extensive list. We work with a lot of counties in the state of Florida. But when you get to that point, we'll talk more about which counties are approved and which we don't work with. So there is an opportunity for you to leave Tallahassee and do your student teaching experience. So why a master's degree? Well, first of all, you can earn it in 1 year. So most master's degree programs are between 2 to 3 years. I know when I was enrolled in both of my master's programs, they were between 2 and 3 years. So the fact that you can just get a master's degree in 1 year is already a plus, right? The other thing is several states do require teachers to have master's degrees. I know that we are in Florida, and we are going to graduate you and you will receive a Florida educator certificate. However, maybe one day you decide to move out of the state of Florida, and a lot of states are now requiring teachers to have master's degree. So you already would have yours. And one day Florida also might require it too. You're more prepared for other degrees. So sometimes students want to become a principal, they want to become an administrator, or they want to get involved in education policy. And by having the experience of what does it look like to be in a graduate program and a master's course in education, it allows you to be prepared more for those programs. It also creates leadership opportunities for you. So curriculum specialist, director of assessment, different things like that you can be once you want to become outside the classroom. So sometimes students will teach for a while and then they say, hey, I want to do something else in the school, and you have the opportunity to do that with a master's degree. And then also higher starting salaries. So depending on the county that you work in, you will get paid more for having a master's degree as opposed to just having a bachelor's degree. Okay. So I wanted to show you kind of the starting salaries or the average salaries for a few of our programs. I know a lot of times students say, I'm not going to go into teaching because they don't pay anything. Teachers don't get paid enough. And while that might be true, teachers don't get paid what they deserve. As we've heard from the speeches that our lovely Teachers of the Year gave, that we put a lot of time and just our whole heart into what we do. And, everybody that is in some type of profession had a teacher, right? But what I do want to say about that is while we are still advocating for more pay, we do start our teachers out in the state of Florida with a pretty generous salary. So the average salary for English educators and social science educators are about $51,000. And the average salary for special education in our visual disabilities education is about $53,000. There's always opportunities for you to increase this salary as you get more experience under your belt in years. And then there's also other opportunities in school districts to earn additional funding as well. But this is just a starting salary. So as you can see, it's not pennies, and it is something that you are able to kind of live off and survive off of. So I definitely always want to share that the myth that teachers don't get paid a lot sometimes is not always true, okay? So a few other things that are so academic and social supports that you will get when you come to FSU. First, we have an advising office. So in the College of Education, we have advisors. I'm an advisor, and we have 2 other advisors that work with students. So we do one-on-one advising through what we call OASIS, which is our Office of Academic Support, Academic Services and Intern Support. So you will be able to meet with one of our advisors, talk about your courses, talk about the program or how you apply, even as a freshman, even when you first get to the university. So we offer that for all of our students. And then you also have the ability to take education courses. So a lot of times students will go to different universities and they'll say, well, you know what, you're not an education student yet, and so I'm sorry, but you can't take any of our courses. We actually allow our students to take a few of our prereq education courses. So it is allowing you to kind of understand what you are getting into when you do go into one of our programs. And then also there's a field experience component with those courses. So we are sending you in the field, you're getting experience, you're kind of taking a look and seeing what it is that you will also be getting into once you're in the program. We also have organizations for you. We have the Council for Exceptional Children. We have the Council of Teachers of English. And then we also have the Council for Exceptional Children, I should say, is for students that are interested in going into a special education program. We have Kappa Delta Pi, and that's an International Honor Society. We also have an organization for our students that are interested in visual disabilities, and that is FAER. And then we also have Student Future Education Association. So I'm not sure if any of you are in a Future Teachers Educators Club in your high school, but if you are, or if you're not, but you know that it exists, well, we do have the college level of that organization chapter at FSU. I'm actually one of the co-advisors for that chapter, and we do all types of things, professional development. We have different fun activities. We bring in speakers. We have bowling nights. We have pizza nights, all great things for you to get involved in. And you can get involved in when you're a freshman. You don't have to wait until you're actually enrolled into the program to become a member of SFEA. Okay, so scholarships. So a lot of times students are, obviously, most of you probably are at that point where you're kind of talking about financial aid, you're talking about scholarships with your school counselors, your teachers, your families. You're applying to scholarships, hopefully, if you are a junior or senior. But we want to talk to you about a few scholarships that we offer our students, or we give our students information for. So the College of Education has scholarships every single year. So once you are actually accepted into one of our programs, you qualify to apply for our scholarships. We offer over $400,000 of scholarships every year to all of our students. But you must apply in order to get the funds. Usually the deadline is around March. This year is March 7th. And I'll talk a little bit more about if you are actually applying to FSU and our program at the same time, but we'll get there in a second. So Florida Fund for Minority Teachers is also a scholarship that the state offers. It's FFMT for short. So if you are a student that identifies as a student of color, you can apply for this scholarship. It's $4,000 a year while enrolled in the program, and you get this funding all 3 years while you're in the program. I am one of the contact people for that scholarship. So once you apply and you are accepted, if you meet the ethnicity requirement and you also have to be a Florida resident, then I will send you an email and tell you how you can apply for that. We also have the Teach Grant, and the Teach Grant is a national federal grant, and that is for students enrolled in a teacher shortage area. So if you are interested in special education, English education, visual disabilities, or one of our math and science programs, those are considered shortage areas in the state of Florida. So you would qualify for this grant. It provides up to $4,000 annually. There is a GPA requirement, as you can see right here. You must have a 3.25 GPA. And then there also is a service component agreement. So for both the FFMT and the Teach grant, you do have to agree to serve in certain schools for a certain amount of time for however long you got the funding. And if you want more information about that, I will definitely share that with you. So additional scholarship information. So some of you will be coming to the university. You've probably talked and heard about some of these scholarships or grant programs already. And I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of like, okay, how does that work when you come into our program, and what does it cover, right? So a federal Pell Grant, some of you might have heard this term already as you're talking about financial aid, possibly filling out FAFSA, learning about this information in your school or in your home. So federal Pell Grant, if you do get a federal Pell Grant when you come to Florida State, you still will be able to use that federal Pell Grant for our program for the bachelor's portion. When you get into the master's portion, the federal Pell Grant is not offered to any student in a graduate program. So it's only for undergraduates. All of the other scholarships, Florida Bright Future Scholarship and the Florida Prepay, those are two biggest scholarships that a lot of our students have when they come into our program. You can use those funds for the bachelor's portion of our program, but they are limited for the master's portion. So I always tell students to make sure you're contacting your scholarship counselor to talk about what does that mean for you in your individual situation. Then there are the Florida Student Assistant Grant, the First Generation Matching Grant, the FSU Care Grant for our students that might have received information that you are enrolled in the care program or that you were accepted into the care program. And then you also have the FSU Freshman Admission Scholarship. All of those scholarships you can use for the bachelor's portion of our program, but when you become a master's student, those funds do go away. So you're not able to use those funds for the master's. So that's why I share this slide, because all of these scholarships, is really important to you apply for them if you qualify, because you can use these scholarships throughout the whole entire program, the bachelor's portion and the master's portion of our program. Any questions so far about scholarships or anything that I talked about before I move on to how to apply to our programs? Okay, so how do you apply? So first I'm going to talk to you about FSU admissions. So I'm not really sure how many, there might be some seniors in here that are already been accepted or waiting on admissions, or there might be juniors or 9th or 10th graders, but just giving you an overview of Florida State University admissions, right? So first I want to talk to you about the minimum high school courses. So if you go onto the admissions website for us, we are looking for a holistic, well-rounded student, right? But there is a minimum high school course that we do require our students to have. So it's not just about your courses, it's not just about your GPA, but it is holistically about all your application materials. And that's how we make decisions on who's accepted into the university. But for your courses, the minimum courses is 4 years of English. Obviously, that's generally most of the time a graduation requirement, I know. But in parentheses, as you can see, I have the average. So if you go onto our admissions website, every year they have what is the average amount of coursework or GPA or SAT, ACT scores that that class before you had. So for fall 2020, our incoming fall 2021 freshmen, the average English courses that they came to Florida State with was 4.5. That probably means they had maybe an elective or some other type of English along with the 4 years, right? 4 years of math is the minimum, but the average is 5.5 years. 3 years of social sciences is the minimum, but the average student in fall 2021 had 5 years of social sciences, 3 years of science, but the average student had 5 years, 2 years of a single world language, meaning Spanish 1, Spanish 2, French 1, French 2, Latin 1, Latin 2. But the average fall 2021 student coming in had 3.5 years. Okay. That just means, as a school counselor, I'm putting my school counselor hat on a little bit. I know I'm an academic advisor, but what I used to always tell my students is you have to go above and beyond the minimum, because you want to make sure that your transcript is as marketable as it can be, because you are competing against other students in the state and outside of the state. So don't just stop with the minimum. I used to have students that would say, well, I'm done with my math requirements for graduation, so I'm just going to quit. And I would say, absolutely not. You need to, if you have room in your schedule, if you have the opportunity to, you want to always make sure you add those additional courses if you can. The average GPA for fall 2021 students was between a 4.2 and a 4.6. So as you can see, that's pretty rigorous. So you want to make sure that you are, doing well. You're adding classes that are going to your transcript that is going to make you marketable, but you're also doing well in them. So if that means you're taking honors classes, you're taking some AP courses, that's really important to do so. And then the average SAT score for our fall 2021 was between a 1250 and a 1400. And our average ACT score was a 28 to a 32. So those are pretty rigorous scores. So it's really important for you to make sure you're taking a look at that profile to see what's the average. Now, the average means it's the average. It doesn't mean that every single student that came that was admitted in fall 2021 had these scores or these classes, but it doesn't mean that you can't also achieve that, okay? I think there's a question in the chat. Let's see. Is the average GPA weighted or unweighted? And so that information is not on the website, but if you go on and you kind of pull up the report, you probably could look through the report to see if it's weighted or unweighted. I'm imagining that this is probably a weighted GPA, because I would imagine most of our students do come to us with a plethora of AP or IB courses, okay? And does a semester-long class like dual enrolled history or English count as a year? Can you ask, I'm trying to understand what you're asking, Kira. Can you clarify that question for us? I know that, okay. Okay, so you're asking if the classes that you took for college credit, so dual enroll course, if you were at like maybe a community college, does that count as a year of what? That's what I'm trying to make sure I understand so I can answer the question. I'll go on to the next question. What is the required SAT score for the summer semester? There are different, they don't have that information listed, I don't believe, on the admissions website. If you are interested in starting in the summer, for the most part, this is just what are the requirements, but you can go on there and see, but I don't believe that there's like an average score for this summer semester. Do Cambridge ACE classes, Jenny, are those dual enrollment courses that you're taking? IB program, okay. So they don't count, well, it depends on, if you pass your AP exam. So that just depends on, what happens with the IB exams. But I believe if you go onto the admissions website, they should have like a list of qualifying scores for AP and IB scores that will allow you to receive the college credit. Okay. So Kara says they count a semester of dual enrolled class a full credit. Okay. So I would count that as one of our minimum years of high school courses needed, or would that be a full year class? So it says they count a semester of dual enrolled classes as a full credit. And so are you asking if that would count as one of your minimum high school requirement classes?
I think she might mean for like general education, like AA type credit.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to talk actually about AA in the next few slides. So I'm going to talk to you about the AA and what that looks like. Okay. Some of you might actually be earning an AA while you are in high school right now. And so I'm going to actually go into that. Thanks for helping me out.
I got you.
Any other questions just about admissions in general? The best people though, I'm not, I don't work for the university admissions, but the best people would be our admissions officers. So if you go, they have a great website, plethora of information. If they are ever at a college fair that at your school or in the community, you definitely want to make sure you talk and speak to them. Okay. But in order, obviously, for you to come into one of our programs, you have to first be accepted into Florida State. So that's why I definitely like to give this information to high school students and families. Okay. All right. So admission requirements for one of our programs. So once you're accepted into Florida State, you will do a freshman, sophomore year, possibly, and then you will be ready to apply to our program. The minimum GPA is a 2.5 GPA, but that's your college GPA. So what is your GPA after those 60 college credits that you need? So the next requirement is at least 60 college credits. You must satisfy all general ed requirements. So once you get into the university, you'll meet with an advisor and they'll tell you, usually at orientation, you'll go over what are the general ed requirements that you need in order to either apply to your major or get into your major, right? And so you have to have all those fulfilled before you come into our program. The other courses that you must take is Intro to Education course, which is an EDF 1005. If you are taking dual enrollment courses, that might be an option for you to take. And I would say take it if you can as a high school student. Another course that we recommend is EDF 2085, which is Teaching Diverse Populations. It does count as a diversity-wide credit for your gen ed. It's an awesome course where you learn about how to teach and work with students from various diverse backgrounds. There's also English education. So if you are going to apply for English education, you have to have at least one either American Lit, this AML stands for American Lit, in English literature, ENL, or just a literature course. So you have to have at least an English course before you actually apply to our program. Then social science, if you are applying for our social science education program, you need at least 12 credits of social science courses. So you can be taking those classes while you are taking your general education courses to equal out to 60. All of those required courses must have a C- or better, okay? So the next thing, so those are the things that you need in order to apply. Like I said, typically students are applying to our program during their sophomore year to start as a junior, right? However, we understand that some high school students leave high school with an AA degree. So high school students, you all might be working on an AA degree right now, and you know that you'll finish high school with one. If that is you, you do still need to apply to FSU as a freshman and meet all those freshman entrance requirements that I talked about. But you also can apply to one of our programs at the same time. So if you are a senior right now in the workshop right now with us, and you know you're graduating with an AA, and you know you're interested in one of our teacher prep programs, you can apply to the university and you can apply. If you are a senior and you were accepted already, because I think FSU did send out their admissions last week. So if you were accepted and you know you want to come into one of the programs, I highly suggest that you apply now. If you don't want to, that's fine. You can start your career at FSU, and you can do, just come in as a freshman and take some additional courses, and then you can wait a year and you can apply during your sophomore year. It's really just up to you. But if you do have an AA, you've already met those requirements.
Yeah, there's a question here about the TCC to FSU program.
So if you do the TCC to FSU, you also can apply to our program when you are done with TCC. So we work with TCC students. We have one of our advisors that goes over to TCC monthly to advise students on coursework that they should take. We have recruitment events over there. We have liaisons that we work with. So students will typically come into our program when they are finished their 2 years at TCC. They've earned their associate degree. They'll apply to FSU and one of our programs at the same time. Okay. So how do you know if you are earning an AA degree? Well, that's something that you probably should talk with your school counselor or someone at your school that works with you on your courses with, so that you can figure out, if you are taking dual enrolled courses, are you on a track for AA? If you're not, maybe that's something that you can talk about if you have time still. But that's something that you definitely want to talk with your school counselor about, or whoever handles course scheduling. Okay. Good questions. So one of the things that I would also like to talk to you about that is a requirement for some of our students, not all. So if you are a student that is interested in math, the math education, music, or science education, you do have to take something called a general knowledge exam. Okay. If you are interested in one of our bachelor's or master's programs, elementary ed, English ed, social science ed, special ed, or visual disabilities, you do not have to worry about this exam. But if you're one of these programs listed up here, you do. The program, this exam has 4 subtests: English language, reading and math, and essay. This test can be taken at any time. I suggest definitely reviewing the material, reviewing what's on the test before you take it. It's things that you've learned before throughout your middle and high school years, but some of it you might need to review before you actually take the test. There are testing centers all around the state of Florida. If you are in Tallahassee, there's a location here, but we have testing centers all around. And then the fees are, it's $130 for all 4 subtests. If you want to take them individually, you can. And you have to have at least a 200 on your English language, your reading, and your math. And then for the essay portion, you have to have at least 8 out of 12 points. Excuse me. Students can register to take the test. Like I said, we do have sometimes high school students that will take it before they actually come to the university. But I really definitely think that you should definitely look, study before you take the test. And make sure that when you do register for the test, your scores are sent directly to FSU. And so that our programs that do need those scores can see those scores, okay? Are there any advantages for earning an AA degree? There are, if you are, if you earn an AA degree, you essentially have already met those 60 credits of general education requirements that the university says that you have to take, because generally that's what you're doing your first 2 years, your freshman and your sophomore year. So students that earn an AA degree in high school, they're able to finish college, fairly sooner than they would have. So essentially you're probably only maybe spending, depending on the program, 2 to 3 years at FSU as opposed to 4 years. And we do have counselors and advisors that work with students. If you come to FSU with an AA degree, we don't just kind of leave you. We have a whole department of advisors that work with you for degree and academic planning. and career planning so that you can make sure that you're on the right path for when you graduate and what you decide to study when you come to FSU. So those are the advantages, I would say. It just really depends on, what is in your best interest, what you want to do, and how long you feel like you want to spend in college, really. But so those are some advantages. Can you take the test in high school? Would you recommend doing that? You can, Zoe, take this test in high school. But keep in mind, if you are interested in math, music, or science, is the only programs that you would need this for. We do have high school students that do it. Like I said, it is a lot of things that you've already probably learned in high school or are learning, or it's not that far removed from the time that you've learned it. So it actually might be beneficial to take it while you're in high school. But before you do that, make sure you look at, if you go to the website, and I don't know if Jenny, you can put that website in the chat for me. If you're able to go to the website, it will kind of tell you what is in each subtest, and it will have a practice test for you, and all of that. So just take a look at, the test before you actually do that. It is fairly similar to the SAT and ACT, a little different. The essay portion is a little different because most of the essay questions are prompts about education, for the most part. So just making sure that you kind of look at what is involved. Similar, but different. Okay. So application deadlines. So for our BSMS programs, if you apply, you'll start in fall 2022, which means this fall semester coming up. So like I said, if you are a senior and you know that you're coming to FSU, and you already have an AA degree, you are eligible to apply to our programs now. And if that is you, you can apply for elementary education. That deadline is March 15th. And if Jenny will put the link for our applications in the chat. English education, the deadline is April 1st. FSU-Teach math and science, they will accept students twice a year. So for fall is July 1st, and for spring is November 1st. Music education, same thing. And social science, special education, those deadlines are April 1st. And visual disabilities is June 1st. So you have to adhere to all deadlines. So students must apply for the programs by the deadline. So I think Jenny put the link in there for our applications. All of our applications mostly have an application, they're asking you information, and then there's an essay component as well. And that is all. Does anybody have any questions?
Y'all should be able to unmute yourselves if you'd rather ask them in person or drop them in the chat, whatever is easier for you.
I have a question. So I'm currently a freshman in high school. So are there any classes that I should take over my next few years in high school that would help me get accepted, or that would serve as a prerequisite for this program?
Not necessarily help with acceptance, but I would say as a high school counselor, what I would tell you, if you were a freshman and you were interested in education, take courses or electives. If there's programs in your high school that are geared towards education, take those courses. Psychology is also always a good class if you have it. AP Psych, if you have child psychology. If you are able to do dual enrollment courses and you have access to that at your school, maybe taking some of those courses I talked about. I'm going to go back to this slide. So Intro to Education, which is EDF 1005 and EDF 2085. Those are courses I know that are offered at most community colleges or state colleges. And so you might be able to do that as a high school student. Did that answer your question, Zoe?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Logan says, yes, early childhood education at his high school really helps. So if you have that, sign yourself up. Any other questions for me or Jenny? This is my contact information right here. If you do have any questions, you can definitely send me an email. We will make sure that everyone that attended gets a copy of the recording, and as well as all contact information for all of our faculty members from all programs, as well as our advisors. Oh, Kiera says, oh, that is great. That is awesome. It definitely is. Tutoring is a great way to get a feel for teaching. I'm gonna stop sharing. Any other questions for us? Okay. If you are not a sophomore in high school, look into career and technical programs at your high school. Yes. Colleen, good advice.
I have a quick
As we
question.
mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You're good. So how much time do you think a student in college in that program would have, like outside of that classwork? Would they be able to like work part-time jobs and things like that?
That's a really good question, Jenny. So a lot of our students do have part-time jobs. It is dependent on the program. There is a large commitment, obviously, for courses. A lot of our courses are during the day, and so you could, if you needed to have a job in the evening. But we also, you do have to go into schools maybe once or twice a week or a few hours. And so a lot of our students do have part-time jobs where they are working. So it is manageable and it's doable, but there is a certain level of rigor for our courses. But we and our faculty work with you. Like, we understand that you might have to work, while you're a college student, or you might want to work. And so we try to work with students as much as possible. So it is something that you can do. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, FFEA, join.
FFEA has an annual event, usually in January each year, that is super fun. So if you're in FFEA and have never gone before, I highly recommend it. Go Zoe.
I know, totally great. There's another question. Is there any benefits to joining FFEA clubs? I've heard about it. Oh, absolutely. Just one that Jenny said. It's a great, huge conference that they go to in Orlando mostly, right? Every year?
Yeah, I
Jenny?
think so. Mhm.
It also allows you to, most FFEA clubs, I'm pretty sure they're doing different types of events where they'll bring in different teacher prep programs, or maybe students in programs, or professional development, or different types of opportunities for you to just kind of see what the teaching profession is like. You'll have access to educators, possibly to some teachers of the year or some future teachers of the year. So it's always a benefit. I was in FFEA club when I was in high school. Wasn't called FFEA, obviously, but it was a future educators club. And we did I had the opportunity to do like a shadowing program in my senior year. And I was shadowing like one of my middle school teachers for half the day. And I got to leave school half the day, and I had coursework. So there's all great opportunities for joining future educators clubs. Yeah.
Any other questions? How can you join FFEA? Is that what you're asking? I would check to see if your school has a chapter. And usually I can look, and there's a link on the Florida Department of Education's website for a list of all the different chapters in the high schools with contact information for the advisor, but there's usually a teacher who serves as the advisor of the group. And so I would reach out to that teacher. Let me go look and see if I can find that link. Give me 1 second.
And if your school doesn't have one, it sounds like Zoe's school didn't have one and she started it. So if your school doesn't have one, maybe talk to one of your teachers or your school counselors about becoming a sponsor for the program and offering it.
So on this page, there's a link with a PDF for registered chapters. So take a look at there, and they have middle and high school chapters listed.
Awesome. Maybe you should also try to connect with Zoe. Seems like she has a lot of information about how to start a chapter. If you are interested, that would be great. And we also try to bring, sometimes if you do have a chapter, I should also say, if you have a chapter and you're interested in bringing your chapter to the College of Ed for a tour or to campus, to Florida State, reach out to Jenny or I, and we would love to have host your chapter for the day. We would give you a tour, a presentation. We would allow you to connect with faculty and students. So if you do have a chapter, FFEA chapter at your school, or any other organization that's related to education, and you want to, come and spend a day on campus with us, we would love that.
Alrighty. Any other questions? Okay, well, as we mentioned, we did record this session. So once it's all said and done, we'll upload it and send out a link to everybody who registered. So that way, if you came in late or missed something, you can watch the recording, share it with any of your friends who may have missed out. But yeah, we are super excited to have you on campus soon. So reach out with any questions you might have. I dropped our emails in the chat, and have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.